Hello, welcome to Grandstand Therapy. I am your therapist today, Lori. We are going to be diving into the Mexico Grand Prix. So it was definitely quite a spectacle race, very exciting. And let's talk about first, I guess going into the weekend, there wasn't a whole lot of news coming into the weekend. Carlos Sainz had a 5-place grid penalty going in from Austin last week. He had to serve. That kind of sucked for him. Then we didn't quite know where the championship was going, with the McLaren team orders, how that's going to kind of go into play week in and week out for really the next 5 races. So we knew that going in. And of course, we had Max Verstappen now in the mix and how that's going to take off. What's interesting about the Mexico Grand Prix every year is that because of the elevation changes in Mexico, the track is kind of like they're floating, kind of driving on the track. So it's always interesting what the teams choose to do in terms of setup for the cars. Well, and then too, we wanted to see what Oscar's pace was going to look like for this week because it has really looked off for the last several weeks. So let's get into a qualifying session. But before we do, let me just talk about something personally. It came out last weekend in Austin that Apple has officially bought the rights for the U.S. to watch the F1 TV coverage going forward in 2026 season, effective January. I myself am a F1 TV subscriber currently, so it will be different for me. And this is what I love about F1 TV is on Saturday, I was out for a Halloween party. So I actually watched qualifying with my best friend Kimberly at a restaurant. So I just got out the phone, put it on the table, and we're just sitting there glued to it. Of course, it's small, so you have to zoom in. You can barely see the times on the board, but we could still watch it because we weren't in front of a TV at that moment. So that's what I love about it. I surely hope that that's going to be the same case. Sounds like it is. You'll just be able to click on your Apple subscription to get to your Formula One. Sure do hope so. That being said, we start to watch qualifying. Nothing really was surprising really in Q3, Q1, I guess, let's see. There were people knocked out of Q3 session, or Q1 session, I should say. There wasn't anybody really knocked out that was surprising in that one. But when you get down to the final session, it got a little interesting because where was Oscar's pace? It was crazy. I mean, he was so far off from Lando. Don't know what's going on with that situation because they have the same car, spin fast all year. Why is he so far off the pace right now? That was really interesting. He ended up in P8 and he really looked nowhere the entire session. So that was kind of interesting. In fact, in the first few sessions, I kind of thought he might not even make it into the final session. So that was very interesting. And then we had both the Ferrari drivers, both Leclerc and Hamilton up there in P2 and P3. I was like, wow, all right. Finally, Hamilton's going to get his flowers this time. He's going to get up there, hopefully going to get out of his slump. It's got to be very difficult for him. I know it's been a hard season. I was really looking forward to that. Leclerc has looked great the last few races. So I thought, well, he might get a Ferrari podium this time around. Verstappen ended up pretty far down the pecking order too. He was at P5. He wasn't really finding a whole lot of single lap pace there during the qualifying session. So we ended up with Lando P1, Leclerc P2, Lewis P3, Russell P4, Verstappen P5, Kimi P6, and Sainz was P7 and then Oscar P8. But then because Sainz had his grid penalty, he had to serve. That did bump people up in the kind of standings there. So I do think, I don't have that written down, but I want to say Yuki ended up somewhere around P8, P9, I want to say. All right, so then we get into the race. So the race was, we knew that going into turn one is always guaranteed to be some kind of chateau, especially when you've got, both Ferraris and Lando and Max all up there at the front, and Russell in the mix. It was going to be, crazy town. Everybody's going to try to go ahead. What was interesting is as soon as the race starts, you look at the board, everybody is on soft tires, except for Verstappen was on mediums and Yuki was on mediums. So Red Bull. I think there might have been somebody else, but majority of the field was all on softs, at least at the front of the field. So I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be an interesting strategy. You usually know it's going to be at least a one-stop race. If not, maybe they were going for a two-stop race, especially if they were starting on the soft tires, because maybe they were going to go soft, medium, soft. So that was going to be, who knows how, interesting how that was going to unfold. So they go into turn one, and it is 4 cars deep going into turn one. I don't know how the two Ferraris they did touch, but they did not damage each other's cars or wreck each other out. But Max goes around the outside, ends up in the grass, slides all the way, somehow manages to miss the wall. I shouldn't say somehow because it's Max Verstappen. He did not hit the wall, comes back on the track. So he had it all out of order, let's say, at that point. Lando was clearly the favorite out in the front. We go a couple of laps. We're not sure if they're going to make him give the pace back. People are going to have to switch around. They did kind of switch around a little bit between Verstappen and the two Ferraris. But there was just so much going on at one time that you kind of didn't know what was going on. Apparently in the back of the field, but again, there was so much going on, you didn't really know what was happening in the back. Lawson had a little bit of damage caused with his front wing. He ends up having to pit stop. We have some double yellow flags come out. And interesting, I did not know this until after the race. I did not see this going on during the race because, again, there was so much to watch. But apparently when Lawson came out of the pit, there was marshals still coming onto the track, getting debris removed from the track. And he's like, oh my God, I could have killed someone. So that was kind of crazy and dangerous. And FIA needs to be figuring out what was going on with that miscommunication with the marshals. Then we get into lap 6 and Hamilton and Max kind of get into a little switcheroo around. There was some great battling between Max and Lewis there for a few laps, which was great to see. And then, of course, Hamilton goes off the track and comes back on and in front of Max, but then he gets slapped with a 10-second penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. We didn't even know if we were going to have that happen from turn 1, but I guess because so much was happening in turn 1 and the first of the race, oftentimes that gets ruled a racing incident, which it did. It never did come back. But poor Hamilton ended up 10-second penalty, which really hurt him, his race, and he got pushed all the way back to, towards the back of the field, which is terrible. But on the flip side of that, here comes Ollie Behrman, who in the Haas somehow manages in the P3 position after all that turmoil happened. I'm like, what? I mean, we're going to have a Haas. I mean, Ollie was racing for quite a bit of time of that race, sitting in P3. Is he going to get a podium finish here? Is that how crazy this is going to go down? So you get further down, and I mean, there was some radio drama amongst Russell. I have to just get it out because it was so great to read. So Russell's like, I mean, is it ridiculous that you can just cut across the grass to keep your position? No penalty, no change. And then he comes back on his engineer again and he's like, isn't that a lasting advantage? And the engineer's like, it's been noted. And he says, all right, fuck it, make a change, noted, not good enough. I'm like, crazy. And then as he continues to go on, there's a battle. He's got, Oscar behind him, Kimi, his teammate, in front of him. And he's like, I've got a fucking McLaren on my ass. Do you want me to do any let him pass? And they're like, no, thank you. And he's like, okay, I was just checking. And then he continues on and he says, I'm happy to give the position back to Kimi if I can't overtake Behrman. We are just going to both be out of the competitiveness in this race. If not, I've got much more pace than this guy. I'm like, okay, just tell him. So they end up letting them switch places, and Russell takes a try at Behrman, but he is really not successful in getting any further up. So at one point back in the race, at some point, then Kimmy's like, can I have the position back now? I'm like, you go, you just give him some spice. So that spiciness was happening. Sainz is again slapped with another penalty for speeding in the pit lane. He said that it was supposedly his car that was acting up, that he wasn't intending to try to speed, but either way, it doesn't matter. He got a 5-second penalty. Also, let's see. Okay, this I thought was absurd. So at this point, Lando is far, I mean, he's been like 10, if not 20 seconds ahead of the whole field for majority of the race at this point. And the McLaren pit wall comes on to Lando and says, if we get a safety car, what can we do for Oscar? Like, what can we do for Oscar? I mean, really? This is not a team battle anymore. This is a dog eat dog type situation here. We got a championship to be won. And you're going to ask him what he's going to do to help Oscar when he's trying to beat Oscar? I mean, come on, really? And then you got Max just far behind him. I mean, I thought that was a stupid decision or stupid thing to ask. But anyway, no answer there. It was just crickets, which I'm glad. Do you really think either Lando or Oscar at this position they're in are going to do anything for each other? No. Then, okay, so that kind of concludes. And then, I mean, okay, so the tire changes happen and everybody goes on mediums. And then Max puts on a soft tire. And there's probably, I get 30 minutes left in the race. I don't remember exactly what lap, but I think he had to go at least 20 something-ish laps on that soft tire. And he is just pace after pace catching Leclerc. I mean, you can just see the time repeatedly. It was really quite impressive of the amount of time he was gaining on those soft tires. And I mean, we're within 3 laps, like I think like 69. And he almost has him. I mean, another lap, he's going to have him. He's going to be right on his tail and fighting for that position to P2. And then behind that, you have Oscar right on Behrman's tail trying to get at least P4. Because again, Oscar at that point was P5 and he's trying to get closer and closer because the closer he is, the less points he has taken from his championship fight. And then we get a double yellow flag. And I'm like, what? Where's the yellow flag at? I mean, none of us could see it on screen. And finally, the announcers come on to tell us that Carlos Sainz's car spun and he ended up in a runoff area, kind of with the barrier there. Then they throw out the virtual safety car and you're just like, oh, hopes of this amazing battle to the end is gone. Sucks. I don't really, so supposedly the marshals, they came on and said that the marshals have to intervene because there's smoke coming from the car, potential fire. So that's why they had to throw the virtual safety car. Either way, they robbed us of what we were going to see was greatness. We were going to see a fantastic battle. And so much so that even after the race was over, even Leclerc said my tires were gone at that point and Max would have been able to overtake me. So he was praying that there was a virtual safety car, which he got lucky on that. And so we ended up with the race with it being P1 Lando, Leclerc P2, and Verstappen P3. Ollie Behrman with Haas got P4, the best Haas has done, which is amazing. Oscar P5, Kimi P6, George P7, Lewis P8, Ocon P9, another Haas, and Bortoleto with the final 10th point. So what's great about this top 10 is we had 3 rookies in that top 10. That is what you call great racing. Then, so I love the Mexico podium because they have the winner of the race gets lifted up with their car on top of the podium, which is super cool to watch. It's like my favorite of the tracks besides Monza. It's really a great podium. So, of course, I always love it when you have Verstappen, both Leclerc and Max on the podium together like we did in Austin the week before. They're both a little chatty with each other, spraying each other with champagne, just having a great old time. Cool down room was great to watch. And we get to the podium and what was crazy to me, and this happened in Austin last week, or last race too, is Ferrari, Charles Leclerc comes out. Everybody's cheering, hollering for him. Max comes out. Everyone's cheering louder. That's not surprising, even though, I mean, Checo was his teammate Even though he's not there anymore, Mexican fans really like Max too. So that wasn't surprising. But then what surprised me is Lando comes out and they boo him. I mean, he got booed in Austin last week too. And I thought that was kind of peculiar because there's so many McLaren Lando fans out there. So I find it hard to believe we have whole stadiums booing Lando. It's very interesting. Well, in the press conference following the race, a reporter came out and asked Lando, what do you think about people booing you? And he was like, I mean, I really don't pay attention to it. You know, people can choose to like who they like. But then another reporter kind of followed up with that question and said he's a Mexican reporter and he can only speak for Mexican fans, but they do not like how McLaren has handled this championship battle with the team orders and making you switch places and all of that. And that's why they're booing you, because they think that it's ridiculous, which a lot of us can agree with that. So that might be the case why at least he said he could only speak for the Mexican fans there at that race. So that was kind of interesting. Then I guess now really what we can talk about is the championship battle is on. So that win by Lando put him at 357 and Oscar at 356. So Lando 1 point now in lead of the championship. Max is now at 321. That makes him 36 points behind Lando. It's everyone's game now. We have a lot of things coming up. We've got Brazil coming next, which is, I hope it rains. I pray for rain. First off, watching the race in rain is fantastic. Max always does really well in the rain, and it changes. I mean, last year we had 2 Alpines on the podium, so you never know what could go down in Brazil, because if it rains, it brings out everybody's, it's like a clean slate. I love it. And I don't know. And then after we have Brazil, then we're going to have Vegas, and Vegas is not usually a McLaren track at all. They don't race very well there. It's very cold temperatures. And for Oscar's sake, I think the only track left is Qatar that he actually does really, really well at. He excels at that track because it's high speed. And then you have Abu Dhabi. So we just have the 4 main races and we have 2 sprint races left. So, you know, if Max and Lando both chip away at Oscar's points for the next 2 races and sprint race we have also in Brazil, I mean, it could be very well a very tight 3-way battle going into the final race of the season. So even if, of course, I would love, Max Verstappen is my favorite driver. I'll go ahead and disclose that now. But I do love a lot of the other drivers on the grid too. And, you know, of course, it would be fantastic if Max could win his 5th world title. But I'm a realist just like Max is a realist. He said 50-50 chance he either wins it or he doesn't. I mean, I've been saying the same. But what I do love is that at least if he doesn't win and it's Lando or Oscar, I mean, they went up against the true Max Verstappen, and at least in the last half of the season with the cars performing better. And it really is, it looks like the McLaren car is on key with now the Red Bull, at least Max's Red Bull, and the Mercedes and the Ferrari. So I do think that it's just every race we're going to get great racing, great results from all the teams, and it's going to be exciting to watch no matter what the outcome is. So I am really locked in for the rest of this season. And I do think that we're going to need to have a lot of grandstand therapy. So please join me every week. I appreciate you joining today. Please subscribe to this channel, and I will see you again November the 7th for Brazil. Bye.